Hello, 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 hello. Today I'm talking with Katarina or Kate Hobler. We talked about provocative coaching with consent and being an outcast. I'm Ivanul from Who's Agile. My pronouns are he and him. Welcome to my channel. You see a lot of agilists around me on this screen. If you want to hear me interviewing, please click that subscribe button because these are the people that I've invited so far. If you think I'm missing people, let me know in the comments. And that like button, well, if you liked today's interview, don't forget to click it. Hello everyone, and hello with me I have Kate. Is that how I should pronounce your name?
Yeah, sure. I mean,
So,
you can try to go for Katarzyna, but I'm not expecting anybody to try to follow that.
Katarzyna, okay, but I won't remember that till the end of the video, so probably Kate is easier. Because Katarzyna, because you're at this point at least in Poland, and indeed I wanted to show a little bit on where I am. So I am in Belgium here, and if we ask Google to zoom out, we go immediately to Wrocław, if I'm correct, which is Poland, right?
Yep, that's right. That's where I am.
And so let's bring ourselves again full screen on screen. But that's a little bit to show where we are, because with this podcast, I'm talking with people a little bit around the world. And this is still Europe. And at this moment, we're recording this on a Wednesday evening, a couple of minutes after 10 o'clock, both in Belgium and in Poland, because we're in the same time zone. So that's already showing us a little bit. Well, Kate, before we jump into the questions, could you say some more about yourself? What do you want people to know about you?
Okay, I'm Kate. My full birth name is a little different, but everybody calls me Kate because my name is the second or the third, actually the third, I think, most popular name in Poland. So there were usually lots of
Wow.
people with the same name. So there are even a few professional Scrum trainers with the same name. So they wanted to tell me apart from others. So Kate stuck to me in a way that even my brother and my husband uses that. So this is basically my name now. And yeah, I am a
And
consultant. Yeah.
yeah, I wanted to say I don't have many people with the same name, but unfortunately my parents chose to give me the same name as one of my cousins. So I do understand the problem of having someone with the exact same name. We're not working in the same profession, but I did make the
Hmm.
mistake once to be a consultant in the company where he was working already for more than 10 years. That didn't really help.
Hmm.
So
Oh
it's,
yeah.
yeah, I get that problem. But if it's in the same industry, like you say, Scrum trainers, that's even a lot harder, I would
Hmm.
imagine.
Yeah.
So
There's even one of my kind of name doppelgangers who also did the same. So she took the name Kate as a translation, and now we have a little problem because there used to be just one Kate, and now there are
there's two.
two. So which one
Ah.
are you talking about?
Oh, so did I invite the correct one? Okay.
I hope so.
It is by definition because you're here.
Yep.
We can make it even more complicated later on by inviting the other person, but that's for today. I'm talking with the right Kate. That's
Hmm.
for sure. So what else do you want people to know? Because I interrupted you in the middle of
Hmm.
your story.
Sure. No problem. I am a trainer and a consultant, so I work with organizations. I primarily worked through kind of the agility vector into changing organizations because organizations wanted to create more value. So this is where I helped. Lately, that agile vector is weakening, let's say, but I'm still working on delivering more value, but mainly through product development and change management. Uh, but regardless, all the time I have been working on what the company is producing and who the company is as a group of people, because these two things are inseparable. So this is what I primarily do in my kind of, let's say, work time, But in my spare time, if anybody wants to play a board game, or if anybody wants to have a round of Magic the Gathering in any format, I'm up to it. So if you're in Wrocław and if you want to play, come find me. I'll be happy to.
All right. I know already a couple of people in the agile space who love board games in Benelux, Benelux conference, XP Day Benelux. Sorry, that's what I was trying to say. For a long time in the evening, a lot of people played board games in the evening. So there was a lot of people playing out because after a whole day of learning stuff, you also want to have a little bit fun and do these kind of things. So
Yeah.
you're definitely not alone in these questions.
Yeah.
So indeed, let's jump to that very first question. What is something that people usually don't know about you, but has influenced you in who you are?
This is interesting because there are of course a lot of things that influenced me, but one thing that by accident brought me where I am is the fact that as a kid and as a teenager, I had a lot of allergies on my hands. So my hands were all the skin was broken and everything. And I really wanted to become a doctor, but I couldn't because I didn't know if I would be able to work with my hands because all of that sanitation and stuff and all of the substances that I need to use on my hands probably I would not be able to touch them. So
Right.
I decided not to follow medicine, even though maybe in the future I will. We'll see, because this is something that's on my bucket list as well. And I decided to go the other route. So I started to work with IT. So instead of choosing biology and chemistry as my extra subjects in high school, I chose maths, physics, and informational technologies, and that's what I followed. So my problem became kind of the thing that defined who I am today.
Right. And was that an easy choice at that moment? Because I can imagine if you're
No.
that age, you
Mm-hmm.
have a vision, want to go, and then in a way,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of feels like your body is I don't know, failing you. It might be too strong as a word, but I can imagine as a child that it could feel like that.
Yeah, I felt like this. Yeah, it's like that my body actually betrayed me because I couldn't work with my hands directly. So I decided that I am going to go with something that does not require sterilization every time I go in to whatever I would be doing, because I didn't know what specialty I wanted to go. I wanted to finish, but yeah, of course. But then also all the computer stuff was super interesting too. It has a lot in common. It's also, when you're treating a patient and when you're writing something or debugging something or creating something or refining, you're solving riddles. And whether those riddles are in computers or humans, they're still riddles. That's still a lot of fun. So I can't say I'm not happy.
But yeah, that's a little bit what I felt already. But I can imagine that the transition phase might feel
Mhm.
really hard
Yeah.
as a child because somehow there is some kind of dream. Well, what I'm hearing, there was some kind of dream of becoming a doctor,
Mhm.
and how serious? How were you inspired to even think about becoming a doctor at a young age?
That's very simple. My parents are dentists, and
Right.
I was really fascinated because they were always talking about work, and it felt to me like it was fascinating. My dad talking about cases that happened to him and interesting things that they have been working on with my mom. So in the they kind of took me in as well on this, because when I became a little more interested and I started becoming a little more aware of what was happening, they took me with them to like conventions and
Hmm.
like gatherings, and I was there observing what was happening, and it was fascinating to me. Yeah. So this is what created that curiosity, of medicine. And of course, after Dr. House was released, that was even another thing, because that was the series of my childhood. I loved it.
Right. But I can imagine, especially, well, I already thought it could be hard for you as having that as a dream, but even more if your parents yeah, have work that is in that, or career in that
Hmm.
thing, it might even feel more like failing, like, oh, I can't do what my parents are doing. How did your parents react to these kind of things?
To be perfectly frank, I think I dodged a bullet. Because I know now that I wouldn't have been able to work with my dad. And I'm really happy that happened. So looking back, I'm actually quite grateful to the allergies I had.
Yeah, I can imagine working with family is always tricky.
Hmm.
Yeah. I've done a couple of workshops with my father, and I'm really happy that I did, and I did some things with my children as well. But that's
Hmm.
just workshop. That is not day to day working.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole different kind of ball game, I would say. So yeah, I can, without knowing your dad, without knowing you, I can imagine this is not easy. And indeed, if the goal, the career goal, would be doing the exact same thing as your father, and maybe
Hmm.
joining that, his practice and everything,
Hmm.
that's yeah, that's a lot. And so now you had the perfect excuse for not doing that, because hey, there is your,
Exactly.
yeah. So I can also imagine that for parents it's might be easier to deal with that, because they see
Hmm.
your body, they see your hands, and they understand. They of course know what it is to
Hmm.
scrub all day, multiple
Yeah.
times a day, I guess. So they
Hmm.
also know, like, okay, this is not going to work.
Hmm. Exactly.
So yeah, so yeah, and here you are, completely different route taken. So
Exactly.
that is, and could you do the fact that, that there was that other career path? How did it influence you? Was there something about that influenced you in what you're doing today?
Mm, I don't think so, because I jumped so deep into all that technology and computer stuff that I just stopped thinking about it. This was fulfilling enough so that I didn't really miss not being a doctor. Yeah, I'm still thinking about taking up that route, or actually finishing medicine. But if I do that, that's going to be at least 10 years from now when I start. So we will see. If I have a business that's up and running without me, then I'll probably go, because it's still fascinating.
And maybe you can do it now with computers, because these days doctors are operating without their physical hands. I mean, they're using their hands, but they're using
Hmm.
computers or robots in between. So
Yeah.
maybe there is an option for you now.
There is actually, my skin condition cleared when
Ah, also.
I kind of went through adolescence. But at the time when I needed to make that decision, I didn't know that.
But do you? But at the same time, also you don't have to scrub every day. So,
Hmm.
is there a risk that things would come back with the scrubbing or not?
There is always a risk, but I don't know.
Right. So yeah. So indeed, even if you would at the just at the moment that it's gone away, said, "Oh, I
Hmm.
can still try." There could have been a risk that 5 or 10 years later that things came back because of
Hmm.
all the scrubbing and everything.
It
So yeah.
is true.
So that's it is a good choice that you took. And like what we heard, you're really happy with that choice.
I am.
Let's move to the second question. Actually, it's a question that's related to your story right now. If you had not been doing what you've been doing now, what would have become of you? And
Mhm.
of course, we now already know that that could have been a doctor. But was there something else that you could have
Mhm.
become?
Yeah, actually, there is a third route because if I weren't in agility and teaching adults, I would probably teach children. Um, because teaching children, especially preschool children, was something I was also very interested in. But this is something where I never pursued it because
Hmm.
it's not something where you can create a good business out of. And I always wanted to create an interesting business. Or actually, maybe you could, but I couldn't see it at the time when I was choosing my path. But this is something I really like children. I really like working with children. And if not, if not adults, then probably I would have been working at a school or a preschool.
And when you say I always wanted to have a business, is that also because your father had his own business, or your parents had their own business, or is that
Mm,
unrelated to that?
I was. I mean, I. I have. I mean, it would have been weird if I weren't influenced by the fact that my parents had a business. But my parents' business is very different from the business I have because medical business is completely different, especially dentist business, where everybody needs a dentist. And even if there
Ah,
is like an economical downturn,
we still
it's
go
not
to the dentist. Yeah.
yeah, it's not slashing the income. It's reducing it. That's true, but it's not bringing you to the point where you're almost bankrupt, unless you're
Right.
doing something unethical or you're really bad at what you're doing. But in a business like ours, it's we are
There's more
very
challenges. Yes.
exactly we're very prone to the to how the market operates, how the market works, whether whatever we're doing is fashionable or falls out of fashion. Yeah?
Right.
And I'm sorry, but dentistry doesn't fall out of fashion. It has no way of
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah, there might be people that have money problems that decide not to
Yeah.
go to the dentist, but most people that even that have some kind of income
Hmm.
will still find, because otherwise it might be yeah, becoming even more expensive
Yeah.
if you go later. So yeah, I can definitely see that. Because yeah, I do remember I lived a couple of years of welfare, and I did go to the dentist at that moment. So yeah,
Hmm.
so even that I didn't realize that, but that's one of the things I didn't let go at that point. So indeed, in that
Hmm.
sense, it's a completely different business. But at the same time, I can imagine that the fact that your parents have to think a little bit business wise, and you see
Hmm.
that could
Yeah.
influence you as well.
Yeah. So
Um,
that had to influence me. Yeah. But I was kind of treading my own path. But I had this because I have to say that my parents were. I mean, they were middle class. Yeah? I cannot say that they were very wealthy, but they were wealthy enough to give me that security where I was kind of trying to stand up on my feet. I could risk something. So
right.
I was privileged in that, and I am very grateful for my parents for doing that for me.
Yeah, and I can definitely see, and that allows, of course, well, you get more the feeling, okay, I can try stuff, I can risk stuff, so I can see what I can do.
Hmm.
That gives some kind of psychological safety at
It
multiple
does.
levels. So that definitely helps, and think about some of the stuff, even if, like you say, we don't have to be fully rich to have that kind of
Hmm.
already things like. Yeah, I have the similar kind of feeling. I never had the feeling I was rich when, or that my parents were rich, but we were able to go on holidays, I think, every year. So that's already something where I now know that not everybody had that.
Hmm.
And so then you know that, okay, there is some kind of richness and some kind of, yeah, safety, that you can try out stuff. It's not like I had to work to make even
Hmm.
sure that my
Yeah.
family survived or anything like that, which is
Hmm.
a total different kind of thing. And the working with children, is that something that is still coming back? Because earlier on you also said like, okay, how do I do with when I'm later, when I'm older? Can I
Mhm.
go back to a doctor or something, doing
Mhm.
something? Is that the same for working with children? Is there something where you have that same desire, or is that gone at this point?
It's transformed actually because I am looking at how children are taught right now because my children are attending a Montessori school. So
Mm-hmm.
they're not in a public school. I would never, I mean, only if I didn't have a choice, I would have put them in a public school. But because I have a choice, I choose not to go through the public education because I see that the way they are taught is very it's not preparing them for what today's world or tomorrow's world is going to be like.
Mm,
And I would love to change that. I would love to kind of have a maybe even a chain of schools. This is something that I'm actively debating with my husband whether we are going to start actually a school. But I know that beginning of the school business is usually very, very hard. So this is something that we would have to do when we are completely free. So if
right.
we set up a business that is going to run itself, this is when we could go and start working with children and their parents into creating a school that is going to make those kids resilient for tomorrow.
Right. I can definitely see that. And indeed the school systems, yeah, depending on the kind of system and of course depending on the country you are, but depending on the school systems we our children are in, they learn completely in a different kind of way. My children didn't go to Montessori or anything what we call I can't come up with the right name, but there is a special name for it
Mhm.
in Dutch for the other type of schools. But for me, most of these schools are much more in an agile way,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
yeah, we just didn't think about it when they were younger. Now, literally today, my daughter, so the youngest one, knows that she's out of what we call high school in Belgium, so they're now have to go to university or something. So these first parts of schools have been done. So that's a totally different kind of level of thinking now about school. So that's a totally different kind of thing.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
so, but that the fact that it transformed, what what would that mean? So that basically would mean you would do something similar, but then for your own children, but not so much for other children. That's how I hear it, right?
I mean, I would, yeah, that's my kids would be out of education by the time I set up the school.
Ah, right. So then
Yeah.
it would be really for others to
Yeah, it would be for others. I
ah,
mean, they might make it to the very end, but I wouldn't. I'm not going to do this for my own kids.
okay. So it's a totally different kind of thing. Well,
Hmm.
let's move to that third question. What is your biggest challenge, or at least the biggest challenge you want to share openly on the internet, and why is that a good thing for you?
That is actually a very good question. I thought about it for quite a while because I was really having trouble finding one biggest challenge because people are thinking that if somebody has a successful business or a successful brand or whatever, they think that their life is just a line of successes. And I have had so many failures and so many challenges in my life, but they're not that visible because this is where
Hmm.
you are focusing on fixing whatever you need to fix right now instead of instead of kind of showing off outside. Um, and I think that I'm just going to talk about the most recent one, or actually a series of most recent ones. Because in the past 7 years, I almost bankrupted my own company 3 times,
Wow.
and it it was kind of it wasn't only I hate talking about fault, but it was my own doing along with things that happened around.
As it
So
usually always is.
yeah, yeah. So the first time I almost bankrupted because I went on a maternity leave, and I didn't notice that my other shareholders couldn't work without me. And
Wow.
what happened was that 5 months in my maternity leave, they visited me and said, we didn't want to bother you, but basically the company is falling apart. I'm like, what? Yeah, all of
That's
the
probably
trade.
something you want to hear earlier than 5 months in. Even
Exactly.
even if you have a 5-month-old child or
Yeah.
4 months, yeah.
So they told me that all of the trainers wanted to leave, and 2 out of 4 shareholders, and I was one of them, wanted to leave as well. I'm like, seriously, you're coming to me. I have this teeny tiny child, and now I need to jump in and kind of try to rescue that. I did. I rescued it and started working again, and then um, we started working kind of up to like a normal operation again. I mean, we changed the way we were working, but it was starting to work again. And then a huge contract came in. I mean, a proposition of contract, and it was like a public offering.
Hmm.
So in we knew that there wasn't a single company apart from us um, that could do it in Poland. So we thought, okay, we're quite safe, and we have offered services. It was just to give you a scale. Our services were about 1.5 million zloty. It's close to 400,000 euros, something like
All
this.
right.
But there
That's
was
a lot of money.
yeah,
It's a
yeah.
lot of money.
It was a huge thing. We would have taken about 5 months to finish it, and we would need to get 10 people on board. So it was a huge deal. So we pushed back our customers to March. I mean, that's when this would be over. And but then there was this company that did not meet all of the kind of they didn't meet the requirements if it comes to like experience and so on, but they gave such a low price because their price was a little over 100,000 euros.
Wow. That's okay. That's 1/4. So
Yeah,
yeah, it should ring bells to the client, but at the same time, it's also very tempting to
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
it did. It was just this was a formal kind of a formal contest. I don't really know how this is called in different languages. So they needed to have like a public offering, and they had those rules, and the price had so many points out of 100 altogether that they won it.
Almost immediately won it, right?
Yeah, they won it by just 1 point. The
Wow.
com-
Okay.
yeah, the company was furious. We learned about this years and years later, because it was all during that contract. This was all hidden, so we couldn't learn about it. So we learned about it years later, and we learned that they have undergone a huge set of problems because of that. And we've pushed back customers to March, and it was March 2020 when the lockdown
Ah,
started. So
and you
we were,
couldn't start earlier with these clients, or no? Because they all said okay. You wait. You said
yeah,
no. So
yeah.
okay.
So they also scheduled everything for March. So we were with barely any income for 6 months at that time, and then when the lockdown started, that excluded our customers for another almost 3 months. I mean, after those 3 months, we restarted, and we started working because we started working remotely. We got our customers to kind of get acquainted with remote trainings, and they started liking it. Yeah. But that was the moment when we almost went bankrupt for the second time. And the third time was after we have.
And there was wait, I
Yep,
want to have a question because I know in Belgium there were some kind of ways that companies were helped during the first part of the lockdown. Did that happen in Poland as well?
it did, but it wasn't. It wasn't really available for us because we were not really a company that was locked
Okay,
out completely because we were technically able to start working remotely.
right. So
Yeah.
yeah, I can definitely see there is yeah, in Belgium that was, I don't know which one. Yeah, I also didn't apply for anything like
Yeah.
that, but I didn't really have a problem, but
Yeah.
I know a lot of others had in
Yeah,
Belgium.
we got like a teeny tiny help. It was about 1,000 euros. That was it. Yeah. So, but that didn't help much. So we needed to change the way we're operating. We got rid of the office in another city. So we consolidated everything. We got one new person that was helping us with kind of the back office work, and she did a tremendous job, and we started growing again. So during the pandemic, in the very beginning was really hard, but then right after that, because we kind of broke through the stagnation of, or actually the fear of online classes, and people started learning that they could be effective as long as you're engaging. We started growing again. And this opened a huge window of possibilities. And we started harnessing that. And we started investing and investing, and we overinvested.
Oh.
Yeah. And so we actually held a very popular product. It was a Scrum Master school, a
Mm.
school of agile coaches and scrum masters. It was a huge deal because it was a year-long school that had like an educational get-togethers every month, and then had a series of assignments that were in between of those educational get-togethers, and we wouldn't have been able to collect people kind of in one place, but we could do this online. So we created that online, and we have realized three separate kind of sessions, or a kind of a series of it. And people who knew nothing about Scrum Mastering, after this year, they were good enough so that they were actually actively Scrum Masters, and they were getting out of being junior. Yeah, I cannot say that they were mid or senior, but they were on the best way of getting out of being a junior, and this was great. But we created that product so good that we didn't notice that it took too much money to create, and we weren't making enough on it. And it ended up in the moment when the most recent kind of economical slowdown came in. So it altogether made us almost bankrupt again. Yeah.
And yeah, at the same time, I think you're trying out, like you said, you felt safe to do something.
Mm-hmm.
You see
Yep.
a possibility for a product in the market. You
Mm-hmm.
go for it, and it worked in a way. But
Yeah.
okay, it worked. maybe to create a product, but not to make it financial stable
Yeah,
to survive as a company. And
exactly.
so what did you, how did you, well, the first twos I recognize, okay, there's a lot of situations. The third one, how do you, what was the decision then? You just stopped the product? Did
Yeah,
that work?
we stopped the, I mean, we thought that we could kind of minimize the product, so we could kind of optimize it in a way that it's going to cost us much less. But then we noticed that scrum masters stopped being employed. So it was really hard for especially new scrum masters to find their first jobs. So we could have optimized the product, but we decided not to create jobless new scrum masters. We didn't want to promise, hey, you are going to be able to be a scrum master, and not deliver. Yeah,
Right.
so this was the main driver, but it wasn't the only driver.
Yeah, but again, you have to, at some point you have to make decisions, and
Hmm.
yeah, that's so these are, I can definitely think, challenges, and I think part of having a business is understanding that. Yeah, there were moments that me, even as a solo entrepreneur, I waited for a particular kind of client, and that cost me also more money, and at some point, I was almost nearly bankrupt as well. I was just literally realizing, oh, if that client had waited 2 weeks before paying me, I would have run out of
Hmm.
money.
Yeah.
So that's the, I think a lot of us, we know the challenges, and we
Hmm.
sometimes always don't foresee it. Even if I thought I had thought about everything, well, we never think about everything.
Oh
That's a
yeah.
little bit. So the second part of that question is, why is that a good thing for you? What's so good
Hmm.
about running 3 times into almost
Hmm.
bankruptcy?
I'm learning each time. I have not made the same mistake twice. I have made similar mistakes.
And new
uh,
ones?
yeah, but if I draw some conclusions out of this, the next time I'm going to be more resilient. And so right now we're building our company as alliances instead of bringing people on board and making it more unstable. Uh, but alliances it looks like, at least for now, it's working. So we'll see. We'll see what mistakes we're going to make this time. Yeah, we'll see how this is going
It's
to work.
yeah, and it typically takes different kind of people. Well, if you hire someone, that's typically a different kind of person than the person
Hmm.
with who you make alliances. But
Yeah.
I see mostly advantages, because these kind of people indeed that want to kind of create a business, and thinking about it, and then yeah, that helps in different kind of ways. So
Hmm.
definitely see that it brings good things to think on a different way of your business. That's what I'm hearing.
Hmm.
And all in favor of making new mistakes, because that's basically
Oh yeah.
what well, it experience is just a nice name for mistakes we made in the past. So yeah,
Hmm.
it's a little bit that. And you still survived. You had 3 times the
Yep.
risk, but somehow 3 times you made the right decision. Maybe a little
Hmm.
bit too late, but
Yeah.
on time to save the company. So
Hmm.
that's a good thing as well. I hear some passion, also multiple ideas that you wanted to have as growing up. So there is some drive, some passion. Do you have any idea where that drive, where that passion is coming from?
Hmm. Um, hmm. Let me tell you a story because this is interesting. I didn't know what was driving me until years ago. We went through a team coaching session. It was done by a pretty interesting person. He was a coach. His name was Marek, and
Okay.
he was a coach. He was specializing in provocative coaching, which I see applications of it, but it's not something that's like a main type of coaching, right? And it's deemed dangerous because it can be. Yeah. But he decided that he's going to do some provocation with us. Of course, under our consent. Yeah?
Hmm.
Uh, and I remember that he took me under quite a few very, very hard questions.
And that was
And
in front of your team, or
yeah,
how was that? Yeah.
it was in front. I mean, I was free not to answer that, but I felt safe enough so that I answered everything. Um,
Hmm?
he found that I was kind of keeping uh, myself on the side so that I didn't want to interfere with others, but on the other hand, I needed to because I was the leader. So, uh, and then he kind of got my values out of me, got me to name them. And then in the end, he asked everybody to create their personal mission.
Hmm.
And I have created it, and it has been meaningful ever since. Because what I was able to put into words was that I really want to, when I'm gone, I would like some of what I do to live in others. And both in my work and in my family. And it still works because I'm fascinated by people. I'm not naturally good with people. I needed to learn on the way because I don't have that sense that people have. And but because I was kind of on the side and I was forced to observe for years and years, because I used to be an outcast in high school during my studies, basically in all of those weird social situations. But I observed, and I really wanted the world and people to change. And this is something that I think I am doing, or at least I feel I am doing. So I think that's what drives me.
And you casually mentioned that you felt an outcast. Is
Hmm.
that something that influenced you also? Because when I thought, yeah, there's quite a few people here that some point in their life felt like an outcast. I don't know if it's a trait for people who are agile or not, but I see it regularly. Maybe it's because all of us are
Hmm.
outcasts. That's a different kind of thing. But but does that also influence you in trying to change the world to be more like you, or see different things in the world, or not?
I would say I would never want to change the world to be more like me, but I would like to change the world in a way that um, it accepts more diversity. And
But is that also not a value of you?
it is a
So
form. Yeah.
in that sense, it's maybe a form of you, in a way, like, okay, I don't want it to change it completely for me, but
Hmm.
for a value of me. Or am I seeing things that are not there?
Um, I would say, I mean, there is some truth in what you're saying, but I firmly believe that there is a place for everybody in the world.
Hmm.
It's just a matter of finding that place. And the fact that I was not with a group of loud girls somewhere in the middle of the city during summer nights. I was on my computer playing something or testing something or uh, uh, experimenting with some new technologies. And the fact that because of that, I was on the side because I was usually in the I was usually either in one of the first desks right next to the teacher or in the very far back, far away from the teacher. I was never
Depending
in the
on
center.
the class, I would say.
Yeah, yeah. So I was never in the I was never in the center, and all the desks were double, so there was usually a partner. There were very few classrooms where I actually had a partner. I was
Wow.
usually alone. Yeah, and but
And does that also mean lonely, or is that not so? or were
I
you
mean,
happy at some point? Because I can imagine some people
uh-huh.
being happy to be alone. So that's why I'm asking.
And I I wouldn't say that I was neither happy nor unhappy. There were of course times when I was happy and times when I was unhappy, but I cannot say that this was skewed in one direction constantly. Yeah. But what's interesting is that I am noticing people like this are, as you mentioned, are quite common in our business, and I think that's not an accident. And and, and I think that people who were kind of on the side, they needed to learn to observe, and they needed to learn to deal with being ignored, or with liking something that nobody else did. Yeah, because I was listening to weird music, I was liking weird TV shows or weird movies. I found myself a partner, or somebody kind of in all through my life, but they were an outcast too. So if we were together, we were together somewhere far away from the main group. Yeah.
Right.
But I think that the skill, that observation skill, whether it was created at that time or the being an outcast was caused by some observation skill, what we are doing as kind of agilists and people who are working with organizations, we need to have a keen eye. So we need to be able to observe very, very well. And I think that this is connected. Yeah. So I'm not sure what is causing what, but outcasts tend to be very observant.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely see something like that. Indeed, that is. Yeah, something I recognize. Well, thanks you for bringing, because it's one question, but it moves us in all kind of directions, and I
Hmm.
love that. This is what I like so much about these questions, that it can bring up a lot of stories about different things from the past and different kind of things. So let's move to that next question. What is your biggest achievement? And what I've noticed in this podcast is that basically this is your moment to brag and to be really proud.
Hmm.
Is that easy for you, Kate, to brag about
Oh,
this?
no, absolutely not. This is the way, at least in Poland, girls were brought up. So bragging was something that was seen as really bad. And as very many people have, I have the, oh, I forgot how this is called. Give me a second. I'm going to remember. The imposter syndrome.
Right.
And I know that this is something that almost, I mean, lots of people have. Um, and I'm battling it.
As everyone who has it or who
Yep,
realizes that he or she has it.
exactly. And I know that this is something that is a problem in business, it's a problem in social situations. Yeah. So yeah, it's really hard for me to brag, but I will because I
So
need to
please do.
overcome that.
This is the moment, and this is probably partially why I invented that question, because indeed I've noticed that many people have an initial thing like, no, I'm not sure, and then are able to do that. So this is the floor. The floor is yours here.
Yay, I'm in the spotlight. All right. So I think I have few biggest achievements. I cannot say there is one, but I think that there are at least three. And I cannot tell which one is the best. And in I'm talking about my work only because personal achievements. I mean, I could talk about my kids, but I don't think this is the place. I mean, I could, but I think for whoever's listening, the work stuff is a little more interesting.
Ooh, did
So,
you just say that your children are less interesting? No, we didn't hear
nope, nope, absolutely
that.
not. They are way more interesting, but maybe
But not
not
for
for
other people. Yeah.
exactly for whoever's listening. So
exactly.
I think that I have created a company where people really like to work. And this is one of the biggest achievements, and this is kind of the basis for others. Even though right now we are very small, because we're only two people, but a little over a year ago there was 10 of us, and we needed to ask people to go take some time off because they didn't want to, because they really liked working with us and they thought that what they were doing was meaningful. So this is something that I'm really happy about. And because I created this, I learned a lot about organizations, and I created a way of diagnosing organizations so that we know what's happening. And I both have a lot of satisfaction when doing those diagnostics, and organizations that use it are very happy because they get lots of information about themselves that they didn't have earlier. Um, and based on that, I developed a few workshops that people are coming to and still thinking about them years after they have taken them. So those are the three things that they are very interconnected. And this is something I love doing. And this is something I view as my biggest achievements. One thing to still do with that is to learn how to sell it, because I'm not really good at that. But I know that I have a good product and I will find a way. It's just a matter of time.
But that is indeed wonderful, to create a business where people want to work and to have that. So that is indeed, yeah. Well, if you've been around long enough, I think all of us, we've seen so many companies where people don't like to work and they feel
Oh yeah.
trapped or whatever. And yeah, and then for me, indeed it doesn't matter how many people work in the company. It's more the percentage of the people that do want to work in that company that is much more important. And unfortunately, I don't know the latest numbers, but I remember reading numbers where, yeah, insane amount of people, yeah, don't like their work or feel trapped or whatever. And so that's it's creating a
Yeah.
company where people do like to work. That is indeed a nice achievement. So
Yeah.
that's really nice. So congratulations with that.
Thank you. Yeah. I've seen those numbers too, and I remember that there are more people who are not satisfied with the work rather than satisfied. I don't remember the exact numbers, but I remember that this struck me.
Yeah, that was, yeah. For me, it's, well, okay. I have again also my own company, but yeah, the last 20 years, but I think even before, I've never had the feeling like, well, thank God it's Friday, or I don't work Mondays or whatever. No, that for me is like, I was probably lucky to create the environments where I would leave a company before I don't like to work there anymore. If it's a client or if it's the companies I worked for before when I was younger, like, okay. And of course, it's a privilege because not everybody has that choice and is living in that. But at the same time, I think even people that have the luxury to make other choices are not always making them, and that is sad.
Yeah.
So, but still, it's good to create companies where people want to work. So that is really
Yeah.
good.
We need to like what we're doing. After all, it's 10 p.m. and we're recording a podcast, right?
Well, that's it. And for me, it's also like, well, we spent like at minimum 8 hours a day at work. I do remember at some company where I was spending most of that time, let's say 6 hours out of the eight, with one person. And I realizing at that time, like, I don't even talk with my partner 6 hours every day for 5 days in a row. I mean,
Yeah.
that's an insane amount. So if I would not have liked that person or worked with that person, that would have been insane. So yeah, So that's that is indeed, and indeed we're we're talking at a very late time. Let's move to that next question about a personal agility tip. Do you have a personal agility tip to share?
I actually do. And it was, I mean, no, it wasn't inspired, but it was connected. I have a friend who's a therapist, and he was so fascinated by Scrum that he created this term called Scrum Sutra. And by Scrum Sutra, he talks about iterative development of relationships. And I think that this is brilliant because this is something what we have been doing with my husband for years now. And we are kind of iteratively communicating. And we have a little retro almost every night at bed, whenever I'm home or whenever he's home. And
I
we are.
assume when both of you are home.
Oh yeah, of course.
Because otherwise it would be kind of strange. Right.
Yeah,
Okay, sorry, I
that is
interrupted you.
true. But that's a funny interruption. I don't mind those. And we're also planning as a family, usually early in the day, whenever this is not a standard day. So whenever there's something special happening for our boys at school, or whenever we are having like an excursion or of some sort, or any other plans as a family, we're planning together. So those plannings and those retros, kind of personal plannings and personal retros, have proven to be invaluable. They have brought us together more than anything else. So this is something I recommend to everybody.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, it's there is a similar thing that we're doing as a couple, not on a daily basis, but indeed like once a week. We try to have a moment to look back at the week. Something we don't call it a retro because I don't want to use.
Oh, we don't either.
Yeah, so that's the thing. These are things that we know as names from our work, but that doesn't help the situation at home. And but indeed, the idea is the same. Let's just indeed once a week go over to the week and talk a little bit about what went good, what went bad, what do we want to improve. Um, I do have actually we didn't do it today, so but I'm trying also with my partner to have a daily conversation right after dinner to just talk. What is the day tomorrow? So it's a kind of daily like what do we want to what do we need to know about your day or my day for tomorrow, and that really helps and it's incredible. I actually did a talk at a bar camp a couple of months ago. I would now have to say like how agile saved my marriage, and in again I wouldn't call it agile at home, but a lot of these ideas once you think about it is really these are the things that are helping, and I could definitely advise it to a lot of people to use the transparency, use some of these ideas, and have different kind of conversations. I would say it's very tempting after a long period together to forget about some of these things to improve. And so, were there things? What triggered you to do these kind of things?
It kind of naturally came out of communication. It was just a form of giving it some structure, let's say. But that was it. Yeah, it was a need for communicating altogether.
And so there was some kind of conversation with your partner where you then said, okay, let's use a structure, or how do you realize that you need more structure in
Because we have run into trouble a few times, so we decided,
as all couples? I mean,
yeah,
that's just part of being in a relationship, I would say.
exactly. So we decided, hey, let's not let's not create those situations where we don't remember what happened anymore. So let's talk about this more often. And that's how it happened. I mean, our intervals in between when we're doing those forms of retro, we don't call them retros, or actually sometimes we do, but just to express what we're doing, and to maybe teach our kids that this is something that they could also do. Um, but they're not; those intervals are
So wait,
uneven.
you just said something very interesting because we
Mhm.
say we want to teach our children. Does
Mhm.
that mean that your children are part of that? Because you,
Sometimes they are. Sometimes they are. If
ah,
we see that this is something that would be worth to talk with them as well, we bring it the next morning. We bring it to them, and this
right.
is where we finish it.
Okay, so you have some kind of retro moment, and then you realize like, okay, this is not just for the two of us.
Hmm.
Let's bring it to the bigger team. Let's call
Hmm.
it like that,
Yeah.
and then bring it there. That's really interesting. And have there ever been moments where they bring stuff like, hey, we need
Hmm.
that kind of meeting with the
Oh
family?
yeah. Oh yeah. Especially the because right now the older one is 13 years old. The younger one is 6. And so the younger one doesn't really bring stuff up yet until asked, but we usually see that something's off. Hey,
Right.
what's up? Yeah, and this is when it starts. But he's starting. So especially when he's talking to his brother, to his older brother, he starts bringing stuff up. Yeah, so
Right.
they are communicating. But the older one, oh, he comes with it a lot. Yeah, so recently he has been creating, he's programming a little tool for his school, because they have like an everyday work to do in class, and they want to distribute it as evenly as possible, and as fairly as possible. So he wants to create an algorithm for it. So this he initiated a conversation on when and how I could help him, because
Wow.
he wants that algorithm to be as fair as possible. So we started at first we started discussing how the algorithm is supposed to look like, and then later on we started planning when we are going to do this together. Yeah, and in what form. So yeah.
That's, yeah, really wonderful to have this kind of conversations and have these kind of things. So that's
Hmm.
and already doing that at the age of 13. That's really wonderful. That's yeah. If we can teach our children to bring up these kind of things, that's
Hmm.
these are skills that are, yeah, are priceless for the rest of their life. I would say it's yeah, wonderful to see you bringing up a child that way that has the confidence to bring that, because it's not easy. Of course, hopefully
It's
it's
not.
easier with parents, but still,
Hmm.
talking about issues is never. And so when you can bring that, because I talked about what we do, but we do it privately. We also
Hmm.
have only been doing that till, I don't know, maybe since Corona or something like that, so 4 or 5 years,
Hmm.
more in a structured way, but never. Well, the children were already older, so we never done it at that level. So need to think about that. That might be interesting to do that as well. So really inspirational. So thank you for that tip. I want
Sure.
to move to that next question about remote work. And you already talked briefly about the troubles you had with your company during COVID. Did you do any remote work before COVID, or was that really the
Yeah.
start of, yeah?
Yeah, we were actually working, and what's interesting, during COVID, we realized that we were working remotely almost since the beginning of the company, because we always had 2 sites in 2 cities. So when we were working as 2 sites, we needed to learn how to work remotely. So things like a whiteboard or a document that we could work on, or making sure that we can hear each other in 2 locations, that was crucial.
Right.
So when the pandemic hit, that was the moment when we realized, hey, we know how to do this. We can teach you. Yeah.
Right.
So we started talking about remote work and what to do and what not to do. our main way of communicating was always Slack. So we knew how to set up Slack. We knew how to avoid pitfalls with using Slack, we knew how to set up over transparency in Slack, so that you could kind of you could set up which information you want to get and which one you actively want to get rid of. So honestly, the only thing that we have learned is how to teach remote work and new tools that have been made available, because all of the remote work tools have developed a lot during the pandemic. So we learned new tools, but if it comes to remote work, we were always remote, and we realized after everybody went remote.
Yeah, that's that's the other part. But it's interesting that you say that you only realized that during COVID that you had already been working remote.
Yeah.
It probably didn't feel like remote. It's just like, okay, we have two offices. How do we collaborate? And then when the whole world is falling to pieces and everybody's talking about remote work, then you all realize like, hey, but that's what we've been doing, so we can help you.
Exactly that.
But that's a little bit on how we sometimes discover stuff, and some of our strengths, because I think that's something that I see a lot of agilists sometimes not realizing what are our strengths, because we are so adaptive and we sometimes do a little bit this and that to help it out, and not realizing that so many other people are struggling with that thing that we almost naturally figured out, and we iterated a little bit on it, but we don't realize that other companies are really struggling with that. So
Yeah.
that's a good way to look at that. And so when you did discover that and when you work on that, was there particular things that you say, okay, we learned that we want to share even more with the world, or other things that you want to share here?
I think the game changer when I was working with my customers remotely, the game changer was that people didn't there are two things, sorry. One is that people did not look at the tools for remote work the right way, because the tools for working inside of an office are something that we know for a long time, because modern offices are something that have been around since basically the 60s. They have been upgraded, but since the 60s there was a common space where we were working, and going into an office space, we take for granted that we have a centrally located kitchen, that kitchen has water and coffee, and the fact that there are navigational spaces usually around the kitchen, so that people need to pass by some of their colleagues so that they can learn where they are, who they are, or what they're doing. And this is all by design. Or the fact that some teams have rooms and some teams are an open space and some teams have cubicles. This is all by design as well. And it's not only to make your life easier or harder, but it's also to facilitate or not to facilitate collaboration, because there are different types of offices. But remote
And
work,
not everybody has to collaborate, of course.
Yeah.
That could be.
yeah, exactly. And if you have a well-designed office, the ones who should not collaborate with others, they will be separated, and the ones that should collaborate, they will be in some form of open or interlocking space. Yeah. But in remote work, it's something different, because in remote work, you need to create those spaces in the virtual reality. And there are different tools, because when you are approaching someone who is sitting just few desks from you, you're talking to them, and that's basically it. But on remote work, you have synchronous communication and asynchronous communication. You have synchronous communication with voice and video, but also you have synchronous communication that is text only. Or you can have asynchronous communication that is, or instant is, excuse me, there's a formal name for it. It's, it's, okay, I can't remember the formal name, but there is communication like straightforward. So whatever you were thinking, you are just writing, like on Slack or chat or something like this. But there's also like a curated version of it, which is an email. Because an email has a form and you're thinking 10 times before you send it, because this is something that feels more formal, that feels more curated. Yeah.
And indeed, Slack or chat messages feels much more like instant. It's called instant messaging for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. And they have different purposes, because Slack has a different purpose than a messenger, like an instant messenger, like WhatsApp or the Facebook Messenger or whatnot. It has a different purpose from an email. It has a different purpose from taking notes on Mural or Miro, or it has a different purpose than just hanging on a Discord call, or a different purpose than hanging on a like a Zoom call or something like this. And they have different aims, and people mix them up very much. Yeah, they think that if they write something on Teams, it's going to have exactly the same impact as an email. No, it's not. There are different forms of communication. It's like receiving a letter versus just talking casually with someone in the kitchen. So first, different forms of communication. We need to learn how to do this. Second is kind of the etiquette of working remotely and creating remote spaces. Tons of teams that I hear about is teams, they are unable to keep their daily scrums into 15 minutes. Yes, because this is the only moment when they are communicating.
I keep telling that remote, I don't care about the 15 minutes because this is your moment that you can.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I've seen a lot of teams that, especially when they like remote work, that they think, oh, we don't have to talk to each other, and then it's bad to talk 15 minutes. Like, no, I'm already happy that you have contact for 15 minutes and want to find ways to even enlarge it in a way.
Yeah, and they usually eat it up not for stuff that is kind of work related, but they eat it up for stuff that is private, because they are people and they need to have a virtual kitchen where they can talk about their kids and their dogs and their cats and their calluses and whatever is happening to their hair that is graying or falling out or whatnot, because we are human and we need that space. We need to feel human along with others. And we need to have virtual kitchens, or we need to have coffee together, or we need to have a lunch together. Yeah? We need that personal together space that we are not caring for.
Mm-hmm. And how do you deal with people that think this is a waste of time? Because I've sometimes seen team members that say, oh, but that I don't like chit chat and blah blah blah, I want to focus and be productive. How do you deal with that?
That's fine. You don't have to come after you have come 3 times. So come 3 times, see what's happening, and then after that you don't have to come. Because if you don't feel like talking like this, but I want you to experience that. Yeah, but and what usually happens is that people fluctuate in those virtual kitchens. There are some that come and some that don't. We are setting up a meeting for like half an hour in the morning. And if you have coffee, if you come in, let's talk about whatever you want. No? And let's see what this evolves into being. We used to have a meeting every day that was half an hour, and it did contain some form of daily inside, but at first it was starting with a daily, then it had it kind of in the middle, then had it in the end, then it had only the daily, then it we didn't want the daily at all. We started creating only the virtual kitchen, and then we came back to the daily, and it was evolving. It was reacting to whatever we were doing and what projects we were following in the current time. And it is going to, all of those types of things are going to evolve because we evolve and our work evolves, especially remotely.
Yeah, I recognize a lot of that indeed. That's again, we need to evolve and we need to look at what is needed and what is not needed, and yeah, and just like different kind of forms need different kind of communications, different kind of people need different or want different kind of styles. I like the fact that you say, okay, you need to come a couple of times and then decide on your own. I don't like the idea of forcing people to come things. I have a very similar mindset also about retrospective. For me, it's like, okay, I prefer heads that count than counting heads. That's something I've learned from Jim McCarthy. Like, okay, if people think don't want to force people there that will have totally, yeah, or completely against it, and then will, yeah, ruin everything. For me, it's like, okay, it's optional. And what I've noticed in most teams that when people feel it's optional, they're much more likely to come because they're like, oh, this is my choice, and then they might not come a couple of times, and then they realize, hey, but these others are making progress. And that's the other thing. You do have to follow whatever the decision is taken in that team. If we in the retro decide on something, if you weren't there, well, sorry, but you still have to follow what that decision. If you want to have a say in it, then you have to join in. And that usually helps a lot of people to realize, hey, I do want to have a say in how we react as a team. And so that's, making it their own choice makes it something that people value or start to understand the value in a different way, I would say.
Yep.
So that's, I want to move to that next question. What is a book that you have read? So,
Yeah, they're actually, to be honest, I don't read many books. I mean, I do read a lot of fantasy books, but I don't really read a lot of books on like management agility and stuff like this. Unfortunately, a lot of those books, I feel they are very inflated. So they do have a few interesting concepts that they are valuable, but I don't really want to. I don't want to waste that much time. So I usually use some form of summaries of those books, and sometimes they have very good YouTube summaries. Sometimes I use one of the AIs that is capable of summarizing a book in just a few pages. And when I feel like this is something I want to learn more about, I want to jump deeper in, this is when I decide to just read that book. But I don't read that many. But there is one that has been a part of my library for quite a long time, and I am looking for.
Before you jump into that, I want to talk a little bit about the fact, indeed, that many books are way too big. I think it was Alistair Coburn, I think also here on the podcast, or maybe in a personal conversation, but I do remember that he said at some point, like, most books, and we're now talking about the nonfiction books that you were talking about, is like at least 1/3 is too much, and sometimes even 2/3. The problem that he said is that you don't know which third it is. So it's when you start reading, and it's only after you read it that you know that, hey, this part, like, okay, that shouldn't even have to had been into into that book. But yeah, and he said it's the same for my own books. There's also things in that now I wouldn't have added, or that I felt I needed to add at some point, or the editor wants it to add, but yeah, somehow a
Yeah.
decision was taken. So I think, yeah, I recognize that a lot also when I'm reading books. I don't think there is any book that what I read that I feel like, okay, this is now completely valuable. No, I like to pick up a couple of ideas of a book. And indeed, like you say, I listen to a lot of audiobooks, and I use
Me
that
too.
as my first filter. When I listen to the full audiobook, if it's still interesting, okay, then I might want to read it, because I do know that I remember more when I read it than when I listened to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's for a lot of books. It's like, I'm happy that I listened to it. I know a little bit. If I need to know more, I can look for the details, but that's enough. And then there is a couple of other books that I say, okay, I want to know much more about these different kind of things. So I recognize a lot of what you say there. Let's move to the book. I think you wanted to start with showing the book. Oops, and somehow my camera went off. Let me fix that while you show the book.
Okay. So the book I wanted to show is this one. This is the Polish version, but it is the Sapiens, but it is in the form of a comic. So it is a graphic novel, and it does have all of the graphics that you might
Wow.
experience in a graphic novel, and it's amazing because this book by Yuval Noah Harari, the Sapiens book is great, but then the graphic novel is even better because it's exploring the same ideas, but in a way that it sticks much better. There are 3 out of 5 chapters that have already been illustrated, and they are coming out. So, just in the end of last year, the third tome came out, and it's the third out of 5 chapter, or actually parts of the original book.
For clarity, I also want to show this is so it does exist also in English. The graphics version. Indeed, you had the Polish version, but the graphics version does exist also in English, and
Yeah,
really wonderful idea to create that of such a book.
yeah.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah, and it's very well narrated because, for example, the first tome is all around that Yuval has a niece and she wants to learn something about humans. And he takes her to a few different specialists about humankind. There is a biologist, there is a priest, and there's a sociologist, or actually multiple sociologists. And Yuval himself is a philosopher. So they are exploring different aspects of humankind, and it's something that got me thinking so much about so many things that are influencing humankind and us as people, that I can recommend this book to anybody. So, and if you are going to buy it, buy all 3 parts all together. And they are illustrated in a beautiful way. And even if you read Sapiens, the original book, I still recommend going through the graphic novel because it's introducing new concepts and is introducing same concepts in such great ways that they're going to stick even better, and you will be able to use it in your both private life and in your professional life.
I really like that, and indeed, it's for me. Yeah, I on purpose don't define what kind of book, and this is what I like also, that it's not always the agile kind of books and the thing, because yeah, that's how we all discover other types of books and other types of things. So thank you for bringing that here. I want to move to or for me, yeah, this is my favorite question. What's a question that you think that I should also ask you, and what's the answer?
Um, this is also something I was thinking about quite a long time, but I think I'm going to go back to something that is still debated until today,
Mm.
and is what is agile dead?
Hmm.
Because lots of people are talking about, is agile dead right now? And this is interesting because I would say yes and no. Yes, because the term agile, I think it is going into a niche where it hasn't been kind of destroyed, because the majority of agility has been basically destroyed. It has been a victim of its own success. Uh, because agility, there was a point at which agility was so popular that everybody wanted to be agile.
Mhm.
But in those efforts, we have lost agility altogether.
That's a very nice way of stating that, and yeah, I think many people would agree with you.
Yeah.
And that kind of also explains why for you it's that and not that at the same time.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
So the idea of agility, the fact that we are able to be adaptable to the market conditions, and we are capable of being adaptable kind of faster. We're adapting faster than our competition, or we are adapting faster so that we can satisfy our customers, depending on whether we are using the blue ocean or not. Uh, it's still going to be there, and lots of companies have employed it. But on the other hand, the agility hype, I think it is dying, and it is dying because of two things. First, there has been such a huge demand that specialists in agility stopped being specialists in agility.
Mm.
So the demand has sucked out of the market, has sucked all of the real specialists out of the market, and then created a demand to more and more and more specialists. And those specialists were not specialists anymore. They were people who have undertaken a 2-day course and promised huge money for doing nothing.
Right.
And this is unfortunately how the majority of Scrum Masters, at least until very recently, were. And lots of people were trying to battle that, but the demand on the market was so great that it was close to impossible to battle, to kind of fight it. The other thing was the popularization of stuff that was called agile but was not agile. And it's both lots of so-called implementations of Scrum that had almost nothing to do with Scrum apart from names, and the popularization of Safe, which is a tool that has its place. So because Safe is great for crushing the largest concrete walls in huge organizations, but it has been used to create change without creating change. And that created this feeling that agility isn't working,
Hmm.
because it wasn't working in that situation. So
Right.
agility as a concept is still going to be there, but agility as a hype, I think it's dead.
Right.
And I'm
Oh,
really happy.
I like the way you said it as a hype. Indeed, that's yeah. I even how would I say it? So I prefer. I don't like the word agile with capital A, because for
Mm-hmm.
me that's the branding and everything.
Yep.
And indeed, it's a little bit that hype is the typical branding agile, the capital A, but the lower A agile is still around, the agility is still around, and that's how I feel it. And I love the fact that, well, it's interesting, and I've said it already multiple times on the podcast. When I originally created these questions about 10 years or 15 years ago now, for a blog version and then a book version, at that point, this question was already in there, and then the answer moved in all kind of directions, all kind of things, and now with the podcast version, it's almost always, or I think like 90% of the cases are around a theme around, is it that, is it not that, what's the future of agile, and things like that. So again, lots of people thinking about it, lots of people coming up with variations. Some people do say it's fully that, but a lot of it is around what you're saying about indeed that theme, like, okay, there is the difference between agility and agile, there is that branding part and everything there. Well, we see also that the Agile Alliance has sold itself or looked for money to what a lot of agilists 10 years ago would have called the evil competition. And I want to go too much into the details. Is that bad or good? But it's definitely showing that the branding agile is no longer existing at that same level as it did years and years ago. For good or bad, that's a whole different kind of thing. But yeah. So thank you for bringing that up, and that brings us basically already to that very last question. Who do you think I should ask next? Who are the people that I should invite?
There are actually a lot of people that I could recommend to you, but I think two stand out. One is Radek Orszewski. He is a specialist in Kanban. So,
if I'm
Yeah.
not sure, because these are people I don't
That's
know. Is this him?
That's him. That's Radek. He has a wonderful sense of humor. He has tons of experience in Kanban. And he has been he was one of the few first people who have been introducing Kanban as a method in Poland. And what's interesting also, he lives like 3 kilometers from me. So accidentally, we didn't know that. So this is one person. He also has a podcast. It's unfortunately available only in Polish, but it's called Kanban przy kawie, or Kanban with coffee. And
I like that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I
Well,
love.
I try to link, even if I can't understand. There still is a couple of people who might understand Polish, so I'll try to link to.
Yeah.
I'll probably link also his podcast at the moment, of course. That I'm talking with him.
He might have some episodes that are in English, but honestly, I don't know, because I always listen to them in Polish, so I'm not sure about that. No? And the second guy is Krzysiek Niewiński, and he has created. That's him, exactly. So Krzysiek is he's working with mainly products and scaling. So he's teaching less, and he's working with less a lot, and he is right now starting the kind of the productification journey in Poland, because there are not many companies that specialize in that, but he wants to pursue it. And he knows a lot about systems thinking as well. And so you can talk.
People who are interested in less are, because it's part of the DNA of less, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. So, and he also has this wonderful, very different from Radek, but he has a wonderful sense of humor. So, talking to him is always a pleasure. So, I think you are going to find both of these gentlemen fascinating.
Thank you for inviting them. This is, again, like you said, you can invite lots of people. I have close to 800 people now on my invitee list, from who I talked already nearly 200 people at this moment. I also know that I will never invite everybody, because
Mhm.
it's, yeah, that would mean I have to keep going for more than 10 years. And if everybody does like you, every time I talk to one person, I get two more. Then it keeps going. So that doesn't it scales a little bit too fast. But yeah, for me, it's really wonderful to meet new people and to learn about new people around the world. So that is yeah, and I decide every my goal now is to decide every December if I want to keep doing it another year. And well,
Mhm.
I don't know if I will keep doing it for how many time yet, but as long as I still have energy. And well, we're almost at the end of this, and yeah, although it's late at night, I this gave me a lot of energy to talking to you, learning, and yeah, new things. So yeah, it's wonderful to do these kind of things and to learn to you. So I want to really thank you for your time. And before we go out, what's a good way for people to connect with you?
Sure. The easiest way is to go through LinkedIn. You can find me. I'm the only Kate Hobler there.
Then
So
send me
this
the
is,
link.
yep. You can also email me if you want me. It's kate@breastwillow.pl or .com actually also works. So an email is also a valid way, but the best way is the LinkedIn because usually my mailbox has lots of unread messages, and I can. It happens that some emails get stuck in there for like half a year or something. So LinkedIn is much better.
Then again, you talked earlier about knowing the right system for what kind of communication. Well, this is clear that you know what works for you and what doesn't. Well, Kate, like I said, it's been wonderful. I really enjoyed this evening. Thank you very much for bringing that joy to my evening and bringing so much energy to me. So
Thanks so much. Thank you for having me. Thank you for being a wonderful host. And I hope you are going to have a lot of fun with your next guests.
I hope so too.
All right. Bye. Thank
Thank you for
you.
watching Who's Agile, where the stories of agilists come to life. I hope you liked today's interview. Subscribe if you're not subscribed and want to get to know other agilists.